When you call me that, smile.
They were the kings of the frontier, but even legends must face the sunset. It's time to head back to 1962 to see what became of the brave men and women of the Virginian. From Hollywood fame to total obscurity, their paths after the show will shock you. We are honoring their legacy while uncovering the secrets they took to their graves. Stay tuned for a look at the cast that you will never forget. James Drury as the Virginian. Born on April 18, 1934, the New York City native brought a stoic intensity to the screen that defined the ambitious 90-minute Western format. At the age of 28, Drury's portrayal of the nameless foreman became a symbol of authority, mystery, and rugged justice in the Old West. For 9 seasons, his commanding presence anchored The Virginian, helping it become the 3rd longest-running Western in television history and establishing a cultural legacy where his black hat and vest stood as iconic markers of a gritty, realistic hero who maintained order at the Shiloh Ranch. Despite the character's rough-hewn exterior and cowboy authenticity, James Drury was a classically trained actor with a background in Shakespeare and theater, presenting a sharp contrast to the saddle-weary foreman he played. This disparity often made the industry's perception of him a hurdle. He was so convincing in the role that he faced severe typecasting, which proved to be a significant professional struggle. Following the show's cancellation in 1971. Like many stars of his era, he found it incredibly difficult to secure work outside the Western genre, eventually leading him to step away from Hollywood for long periods to pursue business ventures in the oil and natural gas industries to support himself when acting roles dried up. James Drury eventually embraced the legacy that had once limited him, becoming a beloved figure on the Western convention circuit and frequently appearing at festivals to connect with the fan base that kept the show's memory alive. He made occasional return appearances in projects like The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. and Walker, Texas Ranger, often paying homage to his roots. James Drury passed away from natural causes on April 6, 2020, at the age of 85. His death was mourned by the Western community as the loss of one of the genre's last great titans, and he was remembered for his dedication to preserving the history and values of the American West. Doug McClure as Trampas. Born on May 11, 1935, in Glendale, California, Doug McClure began his most defining role in the long-running Western series The Virginian in 1962. At the age of 27, he stepped into the boots of Trampas, a character significantly rewritten from the novel's villain into a high-spirited, rough-and-tumble cowhand. McClure's portrayal provided a youthful and often comedic counterpoint to the stoic title character, making him an instant breakout star. For 9 seasons, his rugged good looks and infectious charm made him a heartthrob of the era and cemented his status as one of television's most enduring cowboys, appearing in more episodes of the series than anyone other than James Drury. While Trampas was a carefree bachelor who always bounced back from trouble with a smile, McClure's real life was far more turbulent and complex. Known in Hollywood as a gregarious and unpretentious surfer cowboy, he was undeniably kind, but struggled significantly with personal stability, enduring 4 divorces and a fast-lane lifestyle that contrasted with the disciplined work required on set. Professionally, he faced the severe challenge of typecasting once the popularity of the Western genre faded in the 1970s. Finding it difficult to secure serious dramatic roles, he pivoted to low-budget sci-fi and fantasy films like The Land That Time Forgot, a shift that kept him working but arguably underutilized his talents. Doug McClure remained active in the industry through the 1980s and early 90s, taking guest spots on popular shows like Fantasy Island and The Fall Guy. and famously serving as part of the inspiration for the character Troy McClure on The Simpsons. However, his health began to decline rapidly in his middle age. He passed away in Sherman Oaks, California, on February 5, 1995, at the age of 59, following a battle with lung cancer. His death occurred just weeks after he unveiled his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a final tribute to a career that left an indelible mark on the history of the American Western. Roberta Shore as Betsy Garth. Born on April 6, 1943, in Monterey Park, California, she joined the cast of the ambitious Western series The Virginian, right at its inception. At the age of 19, Shore's portrayal of Betsy Garth, the spirited and musical daughter of Judge Henry Garth, served as a youthful, emotional anchor for the Shiloh Ranch, effectively balancing the rugged intensity of the male leads. Her ability to showcase her singing voice on the show added a unique layer to the character, making her a beloved figure during the golden age of television westerns, and establishing her as a recognizable talent in the industry's first 90-minute color western. Despite the on-screen harmony and the father-daughter chemistry she shared with Lee J. Cobb, Shore faced a significant internal conflict regarding her future in Hollywood. While Betsy was a character deeply rooted in the ranching lifestyle, Roberta struggled with the clash between the relentless demands of a high-profile acting career and her devout Mormon faith. This tension culminated in a professional crossroads. Rather than battling typecasting or show cancellations, her struggle was personal, leading to her abrupt decision to walk away from the hit series and her contract in 1965. She chose to leave the industry to pursue marriage and a traditional family life, a move that cut short a rising career and left fans confused by her sudden disappearance from the screen. Following her departure from Hollywood, she relocated to Utah and transitioned into a life far removed from the entertainment capital, eventually finding a second career as a radio disc jockey and later working in furniture sales. She remained largely out of the public eye for decades, save for occasional appearances at Western film festivals where she reconnected with the show's enduring fan base. As of 2026, at the age of 82, she is living in retirement in Salt Lake City, Utah, continuing to embrace her privacy and her faith, having long ago successfully exchanged the spotlight of the Shiloh Ranch for a life dedicated to her family and community. Lee J. Cobb as Judge Henry Garth. Born on December 8, 1911 in New York City, this formidable method actor was already a stage legend for originating the role of Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman before heading west. At the age of 50, Cobb took on the role of Judge Henry Garth, the stern yet fair patriarch and owner of the Shiloh Ranch in the Virginian. His commanding presence brought a cinematic gravity to the 90-minute series, helping to elevate the television western from simple shoot-'em-ups to serious character-driven drama, establishing the judge as a moral anchor during the show's early success. Despite the character's projection of unwavering authority and stability, Lee J. Cobb's real life was marked by deep insecurity, financial turmoil, and resentment toward the role itself. Unlike the proud Judge, Garth Cobb was a reluctant participant in the series, famously referring to the show as celestial garbage and admitting he only took the part to pay off gambling debts. His career was also heavily burdened by the lingering trauma of the McCarthy era. In the 1950s, he had testified before the House Un-American Activities Committee, naming fellow actors as communists to save his own career. This decision haunted him, alienating him from many peers and creating a painful internal conflict that stood in stark contrast to the decisive, morally assured character he played on television. Lee J. Cobb left The Virginian in 1966 and continued to deliver powerful performances in film, most notably as Lieutenant Kinderman in the 1973 horror classic The Exorcist. However, he did not live to see old age. Lee J. Cobb passed away at his home in Woodland Hills, California, on February 11, 1976, at the age of 64, after suffering a massive heart attack. His death came just as he was enjoying a career resurgence, leaving behind a complex legacy defined by immense acting talent and the tragic personal costs of the Hollywood blacklist era. Sarah Lane as Elizabeth Granger. Born on March 12, 1949 in New York City, the actress joined the cast of the long-running Western The Virginian during its 5th season to revitalize the series. At the age of 17, Lane took on the role of Elizabeth Granger, the granddaughter of the ranch's new owner, bringing a youthful and innocent dynamic to the gritty Shiloh Ranch setting. Her portrayal provided a coming-of-age perspective that resonated with younger viewers, successfully softening the show's tone and allowing her to become a teen idol of the late 1960s Western genre. Despite her on-screen image as the sheltered and sweet granddaughter, Lane had to navigate the high-pressure environment of a network television set while finishing her own adolescence. The show was infamous for its grueling 90-minute format and constant cast turnover, creating a chaotic professional atmosphere. Lane faced the harsh reality of typecasting once the popularity of Westerns began to fade in the early 1970s. Finding it difficult to shed the ranch girl image and secure substantial adult roles in a rapidly changing Hollywood landscape, she struggled to maintain momentum in her acting career after her departure from the series. Sarah Lane largely retreated from the entertainment industry shortly after her time on The Virginian ended, choosing to focus on a private life far removed from the public eye. She married John Scott in 1980, and the couple settled in the Napa Valley region, where they became successful entrepreneurs in the wine industry and raised 2 children. She remained reclusive regarding her Hollywood past, rarely giving interviews or appearing at fan conventions. Sarah Lane passed away at her home in Napa, California, on March 3, 2023, at the age of 73, following a 6-year battle with breast cancer. Her death was mourned by the classic television community as the loss of one of the genre's beloved ingenues. Randy Boone as Randy Benton. Born on January 17, 1942 in Fayetteville, North Carolina, the actor and musician made his mark on the Western genre by joining the cast of The Virginian during its 2nd season. At the age of 21, Boone's portrayal of the guitar-strumming, golden-voiced ranch hand added a unique musical dimension to the gritty drama, allowing him to showcase his real-life singing talents to a national audience. His character served as a youthful, relatable entry point for younger viewers, and his musical performances within the episodes became a signature element of his tenure, cementing his status as a teen idol of the 1960s Western era. While Randy Boone shared the musical inclination of his on-screen counterpart, the reality of his career involved navigating the volatile nature of television production and the restrictive boxes of typecasting. Unlike the carefree cowboy he played, Boone faced the harsh professional instability of Hollywood. He was abruptly written out of The Virginian after 3 seasons as producers sought to retool the cast, a move that stung the young actor. Following this, he found work as Francis Wilde on Cimarron Strip, but he faced a significant struggle when that show was canceled after a single season. As the popularity of the television Western faded by the 1970s, Boone found it increasingly difficult to secure roles that allowed him to break free from the singing cowboy sidekick archetype that had defined his early 20s. Randy Boone eventually stepped away from the Hollywood spotlight to return to his roots in music and his home state of North Carolina. He spent the following decades focusing on country and bluegrass music, appearing at film festivals, and engaging with fans of the classic Westerns. Harrison Ford as Cullen Tyndall. Born on July 13, 1942 in Chicago, Illinois, the future superstar began his career with small, often uncredited roles in the studio system. Ford appeared as Cullen Tyndall of the long-running Western The Virginian. While the role was a minor guest spot rather than a series lead, it marked one of his earliest professional forays into television, showcasing the raw, brooding charisma that would eventually define his career. This early appearance served as a humble foundation for an actor who would go on to redefine the archetype of the American action hero, providing a glimpse of the rugged intensity that later fueled characters like Han Solo and Indiana Jones. Despite the legendary status he eventually achieved, Ford's early career was defined by frustration and rejection rather than immediate stardom. Unlike the confident heroes he would later play, the young actor faced harsh criticism from studio executives. Famously, after early bit parts similar to his role as Tyndall, he was told he had no future in the business and lacked star quality. Struggling to support his young family and disillusioned by the erratic nature of the industry and the rent-a-cop roles he was offered, he famously turned to professional carpentry to make ends meet. This period of professional hardship was a stark contrast to his later success, as he spent years working as a craftsman for the very people who refused to hire him as an actor, a struggle that kept him grounded even after his meteoric rise. Harrison Ford eventually conquered these early hurdles to become one of the highest-grossing box office stars in history, maintaining a prolific career well into his senior years. As of 2026, at the age of 83, he is still actively working in Hollywood, continuing to expand his legacy in both film and prestige television. Having successfully transitioned to streaming hits like Shrinking and 1923, as well as joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe in recent years, he remains a dominant force in the industry. He resides in Wyoming with his wife, actress Callista Flockhart, continuing to embrace his love for aviation and a private life that stands apart from the Hollywood machine he once struggled to enter. William Shatner as Henry Swan. Born on March 22, 1931, in Montreal, Quebec, the Canadian actor was establishing himself as a versatile talent in Hollywood long before he sat in the captain's chair. His appearance in the series was a testament to his standing as a reliable and intense character actor during the golden age of television, helping to ground the high-stakes drama of the popular Western with a believable human struggle. While Henry Swan was a man on the run trying to hide from his past, William Shatner proved to be a performer who relentlessly chased the spotlight, possessing an eccentric and bold personality that eventually became his trademark. However, the years following his early guest roles brought significant hardship. Despite the future cult status of Star Trek, its cancellation in 1969 left Shatner typecast and financially destitute. In a stark contrast to the steady work he enjoyed during his Virginian days, he lost his home and lived out of a truck camper in the San Fernando Valley, forced to perform in dinner theaters and take minor gigs just to support his family, a humbling struggle for survival that lasted nearly a decade. William Shatner eventually orchestrated one of the most successful comebacks in entertainment history, reinventing himself through roles in T.J. Hooker and Boston Legal, and even journeying to real-life space aboard a Blue Origin flight in 2021. As of 2026, at the age of 94, he remains an indefatigable force in the industry. He continues to host the history series The Unexplained, produces documentaries, and engages with a global fan base, maintaining a career longevity and cultural relevance that has outlasted nearly all of his contemporaries. Robert Redford as Matthew Cordell. Born on August 18, 1936, in Santa Monica, California, the future screen legend appeared in the long-running Western series during its second season in the episode titled The Evil That Men Do. At the age of 27, Redford's portrayal of Matthew Cordell, a newly released convict struggling to reintegrate into society while battling his dark past, showcased a brooding intensity that would soon propel him to superstardom. His performance provided a weight and complexity that elevated the episode, demonstrating his ability to command the screen and foreshadowing the gritty, character-driven roles that would define his cinema career in the coming decade. While Matthew Cordell was a character defined by desperation, volatility, and a criminal history, Robert Redford was an introspective, artistic, and intensely private individual who preferred the solitude of nature to the chaos of conflict. This contrast highlighted his acting range, but his early career was marred by the struggle of being typecast due to his golden boy appearance. He frequently lost out on rougher, substantive roles because producers saw him only as a clean-cut romantic lead or a privileged antagonist. Redford found the rapid factory-like production of 1960s television frustrating, often fighting to break free from the pretty face label to find work that offered genuine artistic merit. Robert Redford eventually transcended his television roots to become one of the most influential figures in Hollywood history, founding the Sundance Film Festival and directing Oscar-winning films. As of 2026, at the age of 89, he is largely retired from acting, having stepped back from on-screen work following his role in 2018's The Old Man and the Gun. He continues to live a private life, primarily in Utah, dedicating his remaining years to environmental activism, painting, and his family, while his legacy as a titan of independent cinema remains firmly intact. Charles Bronson as Ben Justin. Born on November 3, 1921, in Ehrenfeld, Pennsylvania, the rugged actor brought a unique intensity to the long-running Western series The Virginian. At the age of 43, Bronson took on the titular guest role in the episode The Ben Justin Story, portraying a rancher fighting a bitter battle for respect and redemption against his neighbors and his own demons. His performance was a masterclass in the stoic, simmering presence that would eventually make him an international superstar, proving his ability to command the screen with few words and establishing a gritty archetype that resonated deeply with audiences of the era. Despite the violent and aggressive characters he became famous for portraying, Charles Bronson was known in reality as an incredibly private, gentle, and introverted man who preferred painting and solitude to the Hollywood social scene. This contrast defined his existence. He was a family man who loathed the violence that made him wealthy. His career was also marked by significant professional struggles, particularly typecasting. For decades, American studios pigeonholed him as an ethnic villain or a supporting heavy due to his rough features, forcing him to travel to Europe to find true leading man status before the United States finally recognized his box office power. Charles Bronson continued to be a top box office draw well into his 60s, primarily through the Death Wish franchise, though he faced personal tragedy with the death of his beloved wife and frequent co-star Jill Ireland in 1990. In his final years, his health deteriorated, and he retired from acting following hip replacement surgery and a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. Bronson passed away at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles on August 30, 2003, at the age of 81. The cause of death was respiratory failure resulting from metastatic lung cancer, leaving behind a legacy as one of cinema's most iconic and enduring tough guys. Lee Marvin as Martin Keilig. Born on February 19, 1924 in New York City, the gravel-voiced actor brought intense menace to the screen in one of the most acclaimed episodes of The Virginian. At the age of 38, Marvin portrayed the sadistic outlaw Martin Keilig in the episode titled It Tolls for Thee, engaging in a psychological battle of wills with the show's hero. His performance as the cruel kidnapper was a masterclass in villainy, showcasing the intimidating screen presence that made him a go-to antagonist in Hollywood during that era. This role reinforced his standing as one of the industry's most convincing, heavies, dominating scenes, with a raw, predatory energy that left a lasting impression on Western genre enthusiasts. While Martin Collig was a character of unrepentant cruelty, Lee Marvin was a complex man and a decorated World War II Marine veteran who carried the physical and emotional scars of combat, having earned a Purple Heart in the Pacific Theater. The contrast between the cold-blooded killer he played and his own disciplined, albeit troubled existence was sharp. He often channeled his traumatic wartime experiences into the realism of his violence on screen. Professionally, Marvin faced the significant struggle of being typecast as a villain for much of his early career, finding it difficult to break out of the mold of the thug or gunman until he later proved his comedic range. His life was also marred by a highly publicized battle with alcoholism and the landmark palimony legal case, Marvin versus Marvin, which exposed his private financial and romantic struggles to the world. Lee Marvin eventually transcended his villainous typing to win an Academy Award for Cat Ballou, cementing his legacy as a versatile leading man in films like The Dirty Dozen and Point Blank. However, his health declined prematurely due to chronic respiratory issues and the long-term effects of heavy drinking. He passed away from a heart attack on August 29, 1987, in Tucson, Arizona, at the age of 63. In recognition of his valor during World War II, he was interred at Arlington National Cemetery, where his simple headstone remains a place of pilgrimage, honoring a man who was a soldier long before he became a Hollywood icon. David Hartman as David Sutton. Born on May 19, 1935, the Pawtucket, Rhode Island native initially pursued a career in musical theater and television acting before landing his spot on the long-running Western The Virginian. At the age of 33, Hartman stepped into the boots of David Sutton, a somewhat greener, more intellectual hired hand, introduced in the show's 7th season. His portrayal provided a softer, more thoughtful counterpoint to the rugged, gunslinging archetypes of the genre. Although his tenure on the Shiloh Ranch was relatively brief, appearing in just over 24 episodes, the role served as a vital springboard showcasing a trustworthy and approachable demeanor that would eventually define his career far beyond the dusty trails of fictional Wyoming. Despite his convincing performance as a Western character, David Hartman's professional reality was a stark contrast to the life of a cowboy. He was an articulate Duke University graduate with a background in economics and a passion for journalism. This duality created a unique professional struggle. After leaving The Virginian and starring in The Bold Ones, The New Doctors, Hartman made the unprecedented leap from primetime actor to news anchor. He faced skepticism and typecasting bias from the journalism industry, where critics dismissed him as merely an actor playing a host. He had to work tirelessly to prove his credibility, battling the stigma that an entertainer could not handle hard news, a gamble that eventually paid off when he became the original host of Good Morning America. David Hartman ultimately spent over a decade as the face of morning television before shifting his focus to writing and producing unparalleled documentaries for Discovery and PBS. He maintained a dignified silence regarding his private life, staying largely out of the Hollywood tabloid glare to raise his children. He returned to his roots in later years, producing historical programs that utilized his distinct, comforting voice. As of 2026, at the age of 90, he is retired from the screen, living a quiet life out of the public eye, yet he remains a pioneering figure who successfully bridged the gap between dramatic acting and broadcast journalism. L.Q. Jones as Belden. Born on August 19, 1927, The Beaumont, Texas native, originally named Justice Ellis McQueen, Jr., brought a distinct grit and charm to the screen before settling into life at Shiloh Ranch. At the age of 35, Jones began his tenure as Belden, the loyal and often humorous ranch hand in the Virginian television's first 90-minute color western. For nearly a decade, his portrayal served as a reliable anchor amidst the show's changing cast, embodying the hard-working spirit of the American West. His character became a fan favorite for providing both comic relief and a sense of continuity, grounding the high-stakes drama of the series with the earthy reality of a working cowboy. While Belden was often depicted as a light-hearted sidekick or a dutiful employee, L.Q. Jones possessed a sharp, independent, and directorial mind that contrasted heavily with his on-screen persona. He was far more than a background player. He was a serious filmmaker who wrote and directed the cult classic A Boy and His Dog, revealing a dark and satirical creative vision that was miles away from the wholesome plains of the Virginian. His career was frequently marked by the struggle of typecasting. His unique facial structure and southern drawl often pigeonholed him into roles as villains, henchmen, or sidekicks, making it difficult for him to be seen as a leading man or a serious auteur by the broader Hollywood system. Furthermore, surviving the decline of the Western genre required constant reinvention, a professional hardship that saw many of his contemporaries fade into obscurity. L.Q. Jones remained a resilient figure in Hollywood long after the gates of Shiloh Ranch closed, becoming a staple in the films of Sam Peckinpah and appearing in major movies like The Wild Bunch, Casino, and The Mask of Zorro. He continued to act well into his 70s and 80s, serving as one of the industry's last living links to the golden age of Westerns. Jones passed away from natural causes at his home in the Hollywood Hills on July 9, 2022, at the age of 94. His death marked the end of an era, leaving behind a legacy as a quintessential character actor whose face was instantly recognizable to generations of moviegoers, even if his name was not always top-billed. Walking down memory lane often brings a bittersweet realization of how much has changed since 1962. The landscape of television was forever shaped by the talent we have honored today, leaving behind a trail of stories that still resonate. If seeing these faces again brought a smile to your face or a tear to your eye, please subscribe to our channel for more nostalgic journeys. Your support helps us honor these legends and their incredible artistic legacies.